Joining me now is former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo. John, is it time to back down on this investigation of the Fed and Powell?
I think it's time for both sides to back down, not just the Justice Department, although I do see that Jean Pierre has now said that we're just trying to get information. We're not indicting anybody here. But also I think that Chairman Powell, by making this video, by going out into the public rather than just complying with the subpoena and handing over evidence quietly, is also escalating things. And the reason why is because, one, Chairman Powell is going to be out of the chairmanship in May. There's no way any criminal case could be brought against him. I don't think he's committed any crime. He might have misstated something before Congress, but you have to prove that he intended to lie to Congress. I think that's very, very hard to show and probably not present here. The other thing is, and I think this is where one hand of the Justice Department doesn't know what the other hand is doing, is there's a Supreme Court case on the docket. It's going to be argued next week about whether the president can just simply fire members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And that would settle the matter, and you don't have to get into this big fight about criminal prosecution of the chairman.
Next one, John. President Trump warns that hundreds of billions of dollars are at stake if the Supreme Court strikes down his tariff program. All right, John, are you confident the administration has a plan B that would work if the tariffs are struck down?
I don't know if they have a plan B, but I've got one for them because I think the court is going to strike down the tariffs. Yep. The oral arguments did not go the way in favor of the Trump administration. It's just going to mean it's going to take more time. Trade laws already give President Trump the authority to impose tariffs, but it has to be on individual countries for unfair trade practices or in individual industries. What the law doesn't seem to give the president is just everybody in the world pays 10%, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, even if you have a trade surplus or a trade deficit with us. So what's going to have to happen in Plan B is that the Trump administration has to go country by country and explain why that country gets that tariff. That's just going to take longer. And I know that President Trump has a penchant for action, and he may not be able to satisfy his desire to put tariffs immediately in place. But that's what the law's going to require him to do if he loses at the Supreme Court.
So the tariffs are not necessarily against countries with unfair trading practices. It's essentially a revenue raiser. Does it come down to that?
Yes, yes. The way Congress wrote the last version of the trade laws was really, yes, to use tariffs to open up markets, to guarantee freer trading. And so it was country by country rather than, yes, as you said, worldwide, just one rate for everybody.
OK. Why the delay in this decision? It seems to be dragged out a lot.
We could see, Stuart, a decision as early as tomorrow. The court's hearing oral arguments today about transgender men and women's sports. They've got an oral argument tomorrow. They could always use tomorrow to announce opinions. A lot of people think that if they're going to strike down the tariffs, they've got to act sooner because you're going to have to. The government's going to have to stop paying out refunds, and they've got to figure out how to do that. A lot of people thought they may announce it last Friday, but they didn't. But they're very busy this rest of this month, and anytime they meet in person, like in an oral argument, they could choose to use that time to announce an argument. So it could be an opinion. So it could be as early as tomorrow.
And you think it'll be striking down the tariffs?
Yes, I think that it's a tough question. But I do think, just from listening to the oral arguments at the court last year, I don't think President Trump's going to win. There were a lot of doubts about, one, whether the trade deficit could be a national emergency, or we need something like an attack, or you need something like what's happening in Iran. And then the second question is, even if there's a national emergency, did Congress give the president the power to impose tariffs? I think they did, because the statute says you could even put a whole embargo on a whole country. But maybe the court will say, but Congress wasn't specific enough to say you could put a worldwide tariff on everybody. It has to be country by country, and those countries have to be posing a national security threat to us.
I'm just dying to see what the reaction of Wall Street is when we get the decision, one way or the other. John Yoo, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you, sir.